And it is so shameful to these young people who I hope one day will replace all of this body. These young people who are willing to have these conversations, these young people who are going to colleges and who are engaging in higher thought and not falling into indoctrination that this body wants our schools to fall into. I'm so proud of these young people, and I hope that one day they replace each of these people who vote for this bill.
Representative Balcony would refrain from interrupting. That's the one warning. Representative Ragan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my esteemed colleague, I will point out, sir, that you apparently have a problem with reading, because I did not go to a segregated school. Mr. Speaker.
Representative, hang on now, hang on. You, Representative Ragan, you are, I wouldn't be shouting out from over there. Representative Ragan, you're recognized.
Thank you. The member alleged that he read on my Facebook that I went to a segregated school, which is an absolute falsehood, both in high school and in college. As a matter of fact, members of my wedding party were of your race. They were my groomsmen. So I will point out to you, sir, that institution.
Question was asked. He brought it up to him. That's a fair point.
Last year, this body passed the Tennessee Higher Education Freedom of Expression and Transparency Act. Among several requirements, this act created a pathway for higher education students and employees to file a report if they believe their right to higher education had been violated by the institution, and specifically related to divisive concepts. This was passed in 2022. The act also required institutions to investigate any report received and take appropriate steps to correct any violation. This bill simply strengthens the current law by requiring institutions to report the results of an investigation regarding an alleged violation to the comptroller within 10 days after the investigation is complete. It requires institutions to provide a status update every 30 days to the comptroller regarding ongoing investigations, and it requires institutions to appear before the Joint Government Operations Committee if the comptroller deems that the institution has failed to timely report such investigation or has failed to take corrective actions.
Thus far, do you know of any cases that have occurred at our higher education institutions related to the divisive concepts bill that was passed last year?
Representative Ragan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As this bill is establishing a reporting mechanism which does not exist currently, it's impossible to know without this reporting mechanism, sir. The idea behind this bill is to have that tracking, to make it available to us so that we can have a feel for exactly what you're asking. At this point in time, I can't answer that with official data.
Representative Pearson.
Thank you for that answer, and understanding the reporting aspect of this and how that could be helpful in answering the question. I do understand that intention of the legislation here is the problem that I have. The definitions that we are using for what is a divisive concept can be easily misconstrued. Conversations that need to happen in higher education need to happen in this house, related to race, related to power, related to the lies of meritocracy, the realities of white supremacy, and how racism has impacted and influenced this country, this state, this institution are so important to be had. And legislation that further emboldens people to support this idea that these are divisive concepts or divisive concepts that we don't need to talk about is inherently harmful and divisive in and of itself. It ensures that we continue to perpetuate this world where there's some ahistorical existence that's going on, that we don't attach the realities. And I'll read it in here related to individual sex and individual's race, because we don't want to talk about and have those very meaningful conversations. An individual, according to the legislation that was passed, that we now be getting a report on, if they feel discomfort or if they feel guilt or if they feel anguish because of conversations related to race or class or gender, they would be able to pull a report against their professor or against a government public entity employee, all because they're feeling discomfort about real conversations that need to happen in our state, especially in higher education, where we are teaching and training individuals to be members of our society. And so because this law emboldens a law that I believe is inherently not just divisive, but is racist and in its intention, I can't support this legislation. And I think we need to revisit these definitions of what is is a divisive concept, because even some things that you might subjectively view as divisive doesn't mean they are unnecessary.
Regrettably, my colleague does not understand that this is a reporting mechanism bill. All that which he was speaking against was contained in the bill that this body debated and passed previously. His objections were presumably voiced at that time, and this body chose to vote that into existence anyway. This bill simply allows us to track what's going on to see if in fact there is a significant sized problem or not. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
You yourself said the last bill we did I did not vote for, but this body passed, did exactly what you wanted to do. Get rid of DEI on our college campuses. You look at org charts across this great state, it does not exist. When do you say success, plant your flag, and move on? That's what needs to happen. You've done what you needed to do. This bill creates a false reporting mechanism. Again, every member on this floor knows what's going to happen. University of Tennessee had a course that someone audited that started complaining and sending you all's texts. Your 70-something-year-old Arizona person that was just auditing the course that entered the course to create drama. That's what you're gonna have. Let's get back to the 3 R's. Let's just get back to that.
I'm one of the members in this body who works at a college university, teaches at a college university. Colleges and universities are supposed to be a place for the free exchange of ideas. It's supposed to be a place where we challenge our biases and preconceived notions. It's a place where we're supposed to challenge each other academically, where we have actual deliberation and don't shut down debate. That is what our institutions of higher education are about. And my fear about this bill when it comes to our public universities and colleges is that it's going to chill free speech. It's going to create an environment that is hostile for the free exchange of ideas and create this vigilante system where people who don't like a particular professor will just say, oh, you gave me a bad grade, I'm gonna file a report against you. I mean, this is what this can lead to. And it is asinine because it's a solution in search of a problem. Many of my colleagues here, some of them went to higher education. And I think what the root of this bill is about is that people here are upset that the younger people are asking deeper questions than maybe your generation asked. They're scared that these young people have more comprehensive view of history and of the issues of systemic racism and systemic sexism and white supremacy. And people are upset that these young people are so brilliant and asking the right questions. And so what is the response of this body? Instead of commending these young people for doing what you have not done, but to say we're not going to allow these discussions in colleges and universities. And not only that, we're going to make it so that you can now be reported if you dare engage in academic thought. And I think we cannot separate this to the sponsor from a larger pattern that we're seeing in this body, where we continue. I serve on the committee, the Government Operations Committee, and it's being weaponized to punish anybody who does not feed into the dominant narrative. Any institution that talks about having an LGBTQ center on campus, you'll be brought before government operations. If you bring a Black commencement speaker, you'll be brought before government operations. I mean, this is a pattern that we're seeing. And I don't think that is the intention of that committee, to be a committee that is about retribution and repression and fascism. That's what this bill is about. And so I'm deeply troubled because, again, we did this at the lower level for elementary school students, banning diversity, banning talks about history, Black history in elementary schools. But let's be honest, we're talking about adults. These folks in college are adults. They can handle conversations about the history of slavery and the history of Jim Crow and the history of systemic racism. They can handle conversations about systems of sexism and homophobia and Christian nationalism. They can handle conversations. And it's on both sides, because what this bill is going to do is going to stifle free expression on both sides. And so to the sponsor, can you explain how you think this legislation fosters an environment of academic thought that is in line with the integrity of what we want in higher education, which is about the free exchange of ideas, which is about diverse perspectives, which is about challenging preconceived notions and biases. How does this idea feed into creating that environment? Because I'll end by saying this, is that I've looked some of y'all up and some of your Facebook. I've seen the sponsors' Facebook, and many of you went to segregated schools. You went to a divided America, and now you want to talk about that we cannot discuss divisive concepts when you grew up in a divided society. The sponsor grew up in North Carolina in a segregated school. And how do we teach that? How do we talk about that if we cannot talk about divisive concepts?
Representative, you have a question for him? I thought you had a question you were wanting him to answer. Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I mean, my question, it was not, I don't know why people are objecting. It's a statement of fact. How do we talk about a divided, segregated society that many members here grew up in if we're banning discussing these concepts? If we're saying we're going to ban, quote unquote, divisive concepts? I mean, it is not logical.
Representative Ragan, you're recognized.
I would point out to this gentleman that his accusations are less than accurate. And furthermore, this bill is not about the divisive concepts. It's about the reporting and investigation mechanisms associated with it. Despite his intensive ruminations over that particular issue, that bill was passed. If he wishes to get that bill repealed, he can bring another one. This bill is about investigation and reporting. I would also remind the gentleman here who asserted that he was associated with higher education that I too have been adjunct faculty at 2 different universities, both graduate and undergraduate level. So I'm very familiar with it. And I invite you, sir, to revise your thought processes. I renew my motion.
We're on the board. All those in favor of Priya's question, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 66, 22 nays.
Priya's question prevails.